Hello, and welcome to Cooking Through the Collection. My name is Melissa, and I'm a librarian and home cook. I do a lot of research when wanting to expand my repertoire of cooking, so I've challenged myself to walk through the stacks of my library's cookbook collection and grab things I've never tried before. So let's see what I'm going to make this episode. It's been some time, so I'd like to take you on an adventure to northern Italy. My family went to the 2026 Winter Paralympics to see a family go for another gold medal. I'm not genetically related, so no, you won't see me competing in any sport. Anyway, back to topic. I ate food in Milan and Bologna. While the latter was life-changing, we spent more time in Milan. I remember our last meal in the city, Milanese-style risotto with braised beef cheek on top. Every other risotto I've ever had pales in comparison, and I was warned about risotto cooked in American restaurants in culinary school. So I've decided to hunt down a cookbook to see if I can make something similar, and I found The Food and Cooking of Milan and Bologna, Classic Dishes from the Northwest of Italy by Valentina Harris. It's a thin cookbook with stunning photographs, instructions to make the simple sauces and pastas, and then the full recipes. Since I'm chasing my last dinner in Milan, I've chosen the braised beef and Barolo wine and classic Milanese risotto. So let's get into the kitchen and start cooking. Hello everyone, so I am now in the kitchen and I've been looking at this recipe because we know sometimes I'm not good about looking at it in advance. There's a lot of cutting prep and I've decided I'm going to do it first just for sanity and cleanliness and that. So the recipe calls for 1 onion chopped. I have one of the biggest white onions I've ever had in my life. It says to chop it, so I'm just going to use half because this thing is a monster, so I'm going to chop it up. We're going to do the cross section. Chop is a little bit, trying to get it reasonable size. That's not even half of a half, which is kind of crazy to me, but it is what it is. It is a beautiful day today. I wish I were outside, but I think I'm going to do that after this has to cook for 4 hours. So we're going to put all of the onion in a bowl. I'm going to look like I was on Food Network in the late 90s, early 2000s. But again, mise en place, everything in its place. It's just going to help me and my sanity with this recipe because there's a lot of things I prepped in advance. I have to wash my hands because I don't want to touch the recipe with onion hands. This recipe, I have it on my phone. I took a photo because I couldn't use a copier at work. You just obviously want to not touch your screen or do things that will mess it up. So I know that the onion's chopped and that actually will be used first. But let's see what's next. We're going to need 1 carrot sliced. And I couldn't find big carrots. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to just use baby carrots, which I don't like using, but I don't have choices. So I'm going to cut it longwise in thirds and then cut this in quarters because I think that's going to be more slice size. Whoo, that onion is fragrant. I have tried all the ways to not have it bother me. I think goggles are the best, but I don't have goggles, and goggles over glasses, I don't know if you've ever done that. It doesn't work great, so I don't recommend that. And we're going to put them in a bowl. The next thing is 1 celery stick sliced. And I believe that goes in the same time as the carrot. I've already taken the leaves off. I'm going to split the bottom part because it's so wide in half. And we're going to slice away. And then we're going to place that into the bowl. I've already chopped up the herbs, which was parsley, sage, and rosemary. I've mixed the garlic in. That was going to be finicky and take a lot of time. So the next thing I need to do is get a measuring spoon out. There's some herbs that it actually says I need to put in with the fresh herbs. Dried spices. And add plenty of salt and pepper. And then stir in the nutmeg and mixed spice. So I have nutmeg. And it says a pinch. So I'm going to do a few grates. Okay, let me put it in the herb bowl and not the celery bowl. See, this is attention detail. So I'm going to do 10 back and forth on the nutmeg, and don't forget to turn the rasp over to get it out. Then it says apple pie spice, which is interesting. It's also a pinch. But I actually have some because I did a taste testing at the library, and all my spices are from the Spice House, and this is apple pie spice, which has cinnamon, star anise, nutmeg, allspice, ginger, and cloves. Well, it's got extra nutmeg, but it says again a pinch, and it says half the flour. So how much flour does the recipe say? It says 5 tablespoons plain flour. So I know I should be doing this by weight. I don't have the time, and since it also offers it, I'm going to do it. So it says half the flour. So we need 2.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. So I'm going to get my flour out of here. I made a strawberry rhubarb crumble the other day, so I know I have plenty of flour. So we said I always triple check 5 tablespoons plain flour, so we need 1.5. I'm going to fluff it up a little bit so that I can measure it flat across the top. That's 1. And then that's 2. And then we get the half. Okay, I'm going to put the flour away for the moment, just to get it out of the way. Okay, we have the herb mixture that has parsley, sage, rosemary, no thyme. Sorry, Simon and Garfunkel. It has garlic, nutmeg, apple pie spice, and half of the flour for the recipe. I am going to stir that up just so it's all ready to go. I have it in a little ramekin. Again, I said I'm trying to look like I'm somewhat organized for this. A few weeks ago, I had made my father-in-law's recipe for tomato sauce and sausage and peppers. I tried to take a nice photo of everything prepped and ready to go. Okay, quickly wash my hands because I think we're coming up to beef as the step. Beef stewing joint such as brisket or skin shank. So I got us a part of a brisket. Actually, I realized that this is half the weight we need, so everything I did's got to be cut in half. That's fun. I had read the kilograms as pounds. So a lot of this stuff is now going to be cut in half. Luckily, I can use it for something else, probably other than the herb mixture. So it says you should have 5.5 pounds beef stewing joint, such as brisket or skin shank, and then 2 ounces of pork fat cut into strips. Could not find pork fat, but I did get some lard. So let's see. Pierce the joint all over with the sharp knife or thick skewer and insert the strips of pork fat deep into the meat. Okay, that's called larding, and I can't do that with the ingredient I have. What I can do is like what I do with lamb. I can put slits in it, and then I can put, like I usually would put garlic, but obviously we're not going to do that. I want to get a spoonful of lard because I don't want to have it touched in there. And because, again, we're cutting this recipe in half. Past Melissa wasn't thinking when she went to the grocery store. So we want to have about 1 ounce of pork fat. And then we're going to put the thing of lard away. I guess I'm going to have to make some pie crust. Maybe make a blueberry pie. I'm sure people in my life would love that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to find a knife that we can use that will be better for piercing. And then so it says, pierce the joint all over with a sharp knife or thick skewer and insert strips of pork fat. So what we're going to do is we are going to open this package of certified Piemontese beef brisket. We went to the fancy grocery store for this. Thought about going to the farmer's market, but can't guarantee what they have every time with the butcher that we really like. So we're going to throw the foam tray into the trash. And we said we got the slits. So I'm going to make puncture holes. I'm going to probably do like 3 each side. And then I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to try to shove as much lard into those holes as possible. We need to make them a little bit deeper so they actually go through. But this is a lot messier, but this is what we're going to work with. But this is probably going to help it so when this slowly cooks, it's not going to be too dry. Brisket has so much fat though, so I'm curious as to why they're doing this. It does cook for 4 hours, so maybe that's part of it. So I'm going to flip it over. It does have some fat, so that'll be good too. I'm going to more heavily stab it. Yes, that's the official term, stab it. Push again, push the fat into the holes. Okay, there are 6 holes. There's 3 on each side of that. And now I got to wash my hands because I've been obviously touching beef and pork fat that have not been cooked. So we're going to washy. And then I think I'm going to need to get my husband to get the Dutch oven, which is what I pretty much exclusively use when I'm braising and doing big things. So let's dry the hands. Salt and pepper. I actually did not put salt and pepper in this, so I'm going to do that. We have sea salt. I'd rather use kosher, but this is what we have. It says plenty, so I'm going to put like half a teaspoon of that. And then pepper. Where is our pepper grinder? Ah, it's over here. It says plenty of pepper too. I'm going to do like... I'm going to do 15. Okay, so that is stirred in. That is salt and pepper, the nutmeg, spice, and half the flour. Heat oil and butter together in a large, heavy, flame-proof casserole. And that, my friends, is why I need... Oh, that was loud. I apologize. And I have the red Dutch oven. We're going to heat butter and oil in a large, heavy skillet. So remember, we're cutting this recipe in half. So it's 5 tablespoons of olive oil, which seems like a lot, but it is what it is. Oop. Oh, it's got a pour in it. So we get the California Olive Ranch extra virgin. But this is cool. It's got like a little nozzle that comes out kind of like the pourers that when you put your olive oil in those fancy like Rachel Ray ones. We're going to do 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil. Ooh, this does pour better. I like this. 2 and 2.5. So how do I close the lid? Do I just pop it back on? I think we just pop it back on. Oh, that is fascinating. Okay. California Olive Ranch, not sponsored. Thank you for your service. That was great. I have a feeling it's going to break at some point because I'm going to be too aggressive with it. And how much butter? 1 tablespoon unsalted butter. I'm going to grab a sharp knife from our butter saver. That's salted butter, so I don't want to use that. So we're going to do half a teaspoon of butter. Go in. And then the butter. Heat it on a large, heavy flame until the butter is melted, and then add the onion. Let the onion sizzle. Okay, so we're going to turn it up to medium heat here, which will be a 6. I'm going to get a wooden spoon so I can move the butter around to see if I can get it to melt a little bit faster. We want this to be lightly foaming, so it's going to take a bit. The butter is now foaming, so I'm going to put in half of the onions. Remember, silly, didn't think about that. We're going to let it simmer for 3 to 4 minutes, gently stirring. Now, the next recipe that we're going to work on is a lot of stirring, so I need to mentally prepare myself for that. But we're going to simmer this for 3 to 4 minutes, and then I will be back. So I'm back, and it is finishing. And then, so the next step is while I'm going to turn this off, it's actually got about another minute's got to be done anyway. So it says that we need to roll the joint in the herb mixture, lay it gently on top of the frying pan. I don't think I can roll this. It's a brisket. So we're going to rub it on one side, and then we're going to flip. Oh, it's interesting. The lard kind of came out. So I don't know how well this lard thing's going to work, but we're going to work with what we got, right? And we're going to kind of rub it on. This is messy. Rub it on to the other side. Roll the joint in the herb mixture. Lay it gently on top of the onions. Just fits. And we're going to clear the deck of everything. I'm going to do some washing up and then I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I've finished doing one last wipe of the stove for a little bit of flour that got off. We don't want that. Our next step is add the carrot, celery, bay leaf, and parsley sprigs. Okay, so we're going to take half of that celery. You said half this carrot. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make something tomorrow that will use the rest of these because I don't like wasting stuff. So we're going to throw in half that carrot. Okay, bay leaf. Okay. And parsley sprigs. And we're going to sear the meat all over, searing multiple times. So we're going to get our tongy tongs. I know they're not called that. It says seared on the side, so I gotta flip it, so definitely gonna need the tongs for that. So this has been going for like a minute or two. I probably should do another minute. And then I will be right back. And I'm back. The next step is to pull the meat out of the pan. It's browned on both sides. It took about 5 minutes aside, and this thing is so heavy and floppy that I'm going to use the tongs and the spoon to get it out. It says to drain off any tons of excess fat. So it says to make a roux with half of that flour mixture. So we're actually going to do half of that because I oopsied. But see, it shows like anyone can make steaks in the kitchen. So I'm kind of sprinkling it over. I'm going to use the spoon to make a roux. So that's going to help thicken the wine. I think I'll be okay. This is what kind of decisions you have to make. So it's going to say 1.5 cups of wine. So we're making a roux. But the thing is, it doesn't tell us what color to get it to. So I don't want to make it, you know, like gumbo brown. So we're going to just lightly stir it till it doesn't look like there's really flour, like clumps of raw flour anymore. Okay. And then it's going to say pour in the main recipe, 1.5 cups wine. I'm going to try this. And so the wine is Barolo wine, controlled product of Italy. So it is an Italian wine. It was not cheap, but all of them were from there. I didn't see any. Ooh, that was a nice satisfying pop, wasn't it? Okay, a measuring cup. We're going to do half of what the recipe says, and hopefully it will cover enough of the meat. So it had said 1.5 cups, so we're going to do 3/4 cup and see how it looks. And that's 3/4. Gonna move it in before everything burns. And kind of brush up everything we got. And this is the thing. So I'm looking at this. It's cooking to evaporate, and then we're gonna turn the meat over and add the rest of the wine. So, okay, there's more wine. See? We're stirring this up to get what they call the fond off the bottom of the pan. So it'll thicken and be a little more tasty because we had all that fat. And then we're going to put the brisket back in. As I said, this thing is heavy, but I was able to get it in with just the tongs. So then the next thing is, it says turn it over several times. So I'm guessing to like get all the kind of juice and herbs and vegetables on it. Okay, I'll turn it. Again, now this is hard in this pan. And the thing is, now I can't lift this pan very easily because it is so heavy. So, okay, I'm considering that several times. And then it says to add the rest of the wine and cover tightly. We're going to add that in. Kind of wedge it a little bit more. Okay. It is less than halfway up, but this is one of those slow braise things of the lid. We return the meat to casserole and then add the rest of the wine. We're going to cover tightly with a lid. The lid's almost as heavy as the pan is. So I think they're going to ask me to turn it down. Lower the heat to the lowest setting. Because it's a cast iron, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it off the burner for a few seconds because this pan is so hot. This pan really retains its heat, so I want to make sure I have it off the burner until it cools down a little bit. And the burner has a chance to cool down as well. And it says cook it for 4 hours, turning occasionally. About every hour, I'm going to stir it. And then we will be back to make the risotto to go with this and finish this recipe up. I am back in the kitchen. This has been simmering for a little over 4 hours. The next step is to remove the meat and to set it aside. And then we're going to pull chunks of carrot out too. Okay. The lid is very heavy, but we have to put it to the side. We've put the lid to the side, and it says pull the meat out. So we're gonna, it has shrunk a lot, but it is starting to shred. So the next step, which I can't quite do the way it says it, but we're gonna do our best. It says pull out the carrots. So the thing is, they're so small for like the carrots and celery. So I don't know how this is gonna work. Yeah, they're so small and broken down, I don't think that's going to work. So we're not going to pull out the carrots. Maybe I cut them too big. It said to pour it through a fine mesh strainer or food mill. I can't lift this because it's so hot. that we're gonna just ladle it slowly into a sieve. And this is gonna take me a few minutes because it's not as fast as pouring, but we're gonna work with what we got here. It smells really good. And I've noticed there is a lot of fat on this, and the thing is that there wasn't that much fat when it said to drain it, so I'm gonna try to use a ladle and pull some of that fat off the top. The next step it would be basically to get ready to serve it. Let's see. Season to taste, then put the chunks back into the sauce and slice the meat and serve it with the sauce. So what we're going to do is, because we're now going to start the risotto, the onion has sat in cold water for the 10 minutes, and then it says you need to drain it and squeeze it out. So we will get a small strainer. We're going to pour it through that. Kind of shake it a little bit, but I need to get a paper towel because I don't have a regular towel available. I am going to put them onto the paper towel in the center. Got a few little extra onion bits there that didn't quite get out of the bowl, so let's throw them in now. And then we're going to get out as much moisture as we can. We wring that out. And then we are on to the next part of the recipe. Heat half the butter in the pan, add the onion and fry very slowly. We do not have the marrow, so that's marrow part's not happening. It does say heat half the butter, so since we're doing a half recipe, it's 4 tablespoons, so we are going to put 2 into the pan. We'll hold on to the other 2 for later. And we're going to need a different wooden spoon for this. I'm going to bump up the stock now that's warming up to get it a little bit warmer. And as we melt this, let's look ahead of the recipe. We're going to do the onion and then for 5 minutes until it's soft, then we're going to add the rice. So while this melts, let's do the rice. We're doing half the recipe, so 250 grams of violone gigante or other risotto rice. So I couldn't find the gigante, but I did find the nano violone veronese. So what we're going to do, we are going to do the scale for this because I don't trust myself. So let's turn the scale on. Let's switch it over to kilos. We'll put a nice bowl there. We'll zero it out, and we're going to go 250. I'm afraid of pouring too fast. Keep going. We are at 250. We're going to have that on deck for the next task. Let's go check on that butter. I'm going to put the finely chopped, rinsed, and drained onions in. Ready to get this up to a sizzle. And then I'll be back in about 5 minutes for the next step. Okay, we are back. The onions have been frying lightly for 2 minutes in the butter. And now it says, add the rice. Stir and coat the grains thoroughly until the rice grains are cracking hot, but not colored. So when I learned about this, let's pour it in. When I learned about this in culinary school, they said this helps like lock in the starch. It somehow makes the quality of the rice better. Also, this is kind of a secret in pilafs as well, where you're sauteing the rice in some sort of fat. So it's saying until we start hearing crackling noises. I'm guessing it's not going to be quick. The stock is now hot, so we don't have to worry about that. So things are coming together slowly but surely. Have any of you been to Northern Italy? Let me know in the comments on social. I would be curious to hear. I've never been before. I've only been to Southern Italy. So it was very exciting to go for an exciting reason and then eat some amazing food. And the last night in Milan really just was a standout meal, and it wasn't really complicated. You know, it was slow cooked beef and then this. So there's definitely the whole concept of like the slow food movement where we don't want things packaged and quick, though I have to admit, packaged and quick. But when we're trying to be a little bit better and more mindful of our food, what we put into it, things that are grown locally always makes a difference. Was that a pop? I've been stirring it. It says coat the grains of rice. But was that a popping noise? No, that just sounds like a frying noise. So it's probably because I'm just moving it. But I'm so terrified of burning it because that would be a disappointing end to the day and then having to start over again. if that does happen, you probably won't hear any of this part. I would probably tell you about it, but it wouldn't make you suffer through me having choice words at my own cooking skills. But I love rice. I think I've mentioned this before. I like rice of every type. The short grain one is better for these starchy things. And like, I had a risotto rice pudding once. That was amazing. But I would have to say my favorite just rice to eat is jasmine rice. I absolutely love jasmine rice. I like basmati rice too. But there's something about the long grains in jasmine that are just great. But I've never cooked with this rice before. And it isn't exactly the same as the one they said. But it's the closest I could get without trying to do a lot of hunting. It was the first one that came up. So let's see. Is it popping yet? Was that a pop? I'm not going to whisper. There's an ASMR quality to what I do, but that would be a little weird. There's a little bit of popping and crackling, and I'm afraid of going too far. So the next step is to add a ladle full of stock and stir constantly. We're going to do this a lot, so let's do the first one. My sizzle, stir like crazy. So that's the one thing that is the same. There is a lot of stirring involved. Okay, that's absorbed. I'm going to do another one. We're going to be doing this for about 10 minutes. So we're partway through, but yeah. I don't think risotto is something that people are going to cook on a regular basis. I'm not even sure y'all will cook it. Unless it comes out absolutely amazing, which I hope it does, because this is an involved process. Again, just little bit of little, and it's absorbing it pretty quickly. I don't know if that means I have like the heat too high or something. I'll knock it down just a little bit just in case. You don't need the burner on for the stock anymore. It is plenty hot. Continue cooking, adding until the risotto will take about 20 minutes. So let's get back to this. I walked away for it from probably too long to check on something else. This is fully absorbed, so we're going to do another ladle and stir in. It looks and smells good. We're going to be adding this ingredient that they call it saffron powder. It says 1 to 2 sachets of saffron powder. I didn't know what that was, so I had to go look it up to get it online. Where is it? Like, how did I lose it? It almost looks like Bugs Bunny on it. Zafferano leproto sapore deciso. 4 persons, 20 minutes. So it comes in like a pack that you have to cut. So it says 1 to 2 for the recipe. So we're going to do 1 because we're doing half. And we are going to get scissors from here. And we're going to cut it, open the packet. It's almost like a yeast packet. And it's got all the seams. So since it said to use 1 to 2, we're going to use 1. And we're going to have it on deck. I'm going to do 1 more ladle. Hopefully I didn't walk away too long for the adventure of finding those. I had pulled it off the burner. So let's get a little bit more absorbed. This was definitely involved to do these both the same day. But luckily, I only worked a half day. So I had plenty of time to do this. Add the saffron powder and stir through. So add the saffron powder and stir through. Opening this packet is proving to be harder than I thought it might be. So we're going to shake and tap it. Again, like a yeast packet, and I'm going to make a small incision because I don't know how much of this stuff's going to jump out. It is now opened, and we're going to stir it in. So I don't know how this is processed, what else is in it, so I can't account for that. So let's stir a little bit, and then we're going to open this packet fully because I like tore a corner. Oh, this is interesting. So in the packet, it's another packet. But this packet looks like it might not be actually sealed. Almost looks like a packet that you get with tiny seeds in it. Kind of like a wax paper pouch. So we're going to carefully wrap it. It's almost like a little funnel, and we're going to just throw it right in. Not with the wrapper, of course. It smells like saffron. I just don't know if there's anything else in it. I'm guessing not. So let's stir that in. And I remember the risotto that I had in Milan was very yellow. Almost like a butter yellow. It was so beautiful. It was just this little, small, you can tell neighborhood restaurant, 2 generations of family. The dad's in the back, the son's the waiter. And I stirred that in. Put it back on the burner to dry it up a little more. Let's make sure there's no pieces of rice that are stuck higher in my saucepan. So we'll make sure that they're getting cooked, just like I'll make sure all the rice gets off the spoon. So it also cooks. So I'm using another spoon to kind of scrape that off. It looks like there's some of the saffron powder actually stuck on the spoon. So the next time I pour, I'm going to make sure I pour over that. This is definitely looking, just with that saffron powder, that's the color. So they may make their own saffron powder there. I don't know. So it's definitely creamier when I'm stirring it. Like I can notice the difference. The moisture is definitely absorbed. It's very creamy, starchy looking, which is good because that's really what we want. What I did is I put the braised beef and Barolo in a container wrapped in foil in the oven to just keep it warm since I don't have tons of space. And I wanted to make sure that it didn't get too cold. So that brisket is sitting there. It's not cooking. It's just keeping it warm for me, which I appreciate. Okay, then we're going to add another ladle. But we are getting very close to the end. And so when we get to then, we're going to take it off the heat. So it says the risotto will take about 20 minutes to cook. When it's creamy and velvety, the rice grains are still firm, take it off the heat. So I'm getting to a point where I have a feeling I'm going to have to taste it. But it is, to get back to stirring, I had walked away to read the instructions. So we're basically going to be finishing it with butter and cheese. And it's really been an interesting path because my husband knew he was going to be unable to avoid cheese in Italy. So he learned to be willing to try. And Parmesan cheese, which is from this region. Yeah, we had way too much food fun in Bologna. I was so happy with that food tour. If you ever do go to Bologna, I highly recommend just trying a little bit of everything. The old center of the market, there were just vendors that were, you could tell were known for 1 or 2 items. There was a place that just did pasta. There's a place that just did prosciutto. There were places that had all of them. You could definitely tell because they're encouraging to buy them together for your meal. But you could see the pride and the care taken in everything. Just like I had real balsamic vinegar, Balsamico di Modena, Modena, Italy. Again, not far from Bologna. And it just wasn't even the same. Stuff that I thought was authentic here in the US is absolutely not. To be balsamico, it actually needs to be aged for 12 years. It has to be in a certain size bottle, which is 100 milliliters. The bottle has to be a certain shape. It has to be approved by the state agency that does the DOP, which is basically the origin for those items to make sure that they are up to the standard they need to be. But we're getting to the point of the night where Melissa is knocking everything over. It's not the most fun part of the night. We're definitely getting closer. It's definitely thickened. I feel like most of the moisture has absorbed. We're just now in like starch land, so I'm going to finish putting the stock in. And then we're going to let it cook a minute or two, and then I'm going to taste it. I've made risotto like once or twice before. We ate risotto on another tour that we did, and that was not in Milan. It was outside of Milan in another area. We had to drive for a while. So it just wasn't great. It was probably, a place that was looking for people who didn't necessarily want authentic food. It tasted good, but it wasn't great. And then after I had this, it was just, there was no comparison at all. This is the best risotto I'd ever had. And like the braised beef chicken, and the bread and the wine, it was just the whole process. We actually didn't bring any wine back or any cheese. I regret the cheese. The wine, we were able to see and check online, the ones that we liked. You can actually get them at the local big liquor store. So I'm very thankful for that. And how much cheese? We're going to need 1/3 cup of freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. I didn't bring any back, but we went to an Italian market here, and I made sure I got the real deal. It's a very tiny piece. I just wasn't sure, 1, I wanted to bring it back, and 2, I had taken up my suitcase with balsamic vinegar and then chocolate from Switzerland, so I already had a priority. And since, cheese isn't my husband's necessarily favorite thing to eat by a long shot, I just wanted to make room for something that I know we would both enjoy. We've been slowly rationing chocolate from Lugano, Switzerland. Just went there for a short bit. My husband had an espresso shot that had, basically the hot chocolate there was fudge, what we would call here, or almost like the Spanish, what I know is the Spanish style of like chocolate that goes with churros. It was super thick, and he had that mixed together with the crema from the core of the espresso on top. And it just, even though it was a really short time in Switzerland, like an hour, it was really beautiful. We got to taste something lovely, watch boats on the water pass by, and it was just nearing the end of our trip. But yeah, so we did 2 different tours, but the Bologna food tour, just hands down, I just loved it. The woman who led the tour was from there. You can tell how proud she is of her community, of the foods they make, how reverential she was with everything. So it was lovely. I wish we could have spent more time there. I almost wish we could have stayed there. It's such a different vibe. Milan's just like a big, vibrant metropolitan city that has historical parts in it. And Bologna just felt historical and just felt almost magical, and I loved it. I'm jealous that the college I went to, if you were a political science major, you could study abroad in Bologna. I was not political science major. I'm sure none of you are shocked by that. Let's not go to what my major was. But we're still stirring this up. It really hasn't absorbed. And I'm wondering if I should turn the heat up. I'm really afraid to. So I'm just going to keep stirring and stirring and stirring and stirring. I'm going to get the cheese out, though, from the fridge. Get my rasp that I had used earlier for the nutmeg. Give it a quick rinse on the back because I think still had some nutmeg on it. I don't think the nutmeg is supposed to go into this. And we're just going to start grating it. But I like the microplane rasp thing because it really grates it really fine. So let's get a bowl. And while I stir, do another stir, I'm going to monitor. I'm working right on the stove, actually, because the cheese is going to go in. So I said 1/3 of a cup of cheese and then more for serving. So let's get started on that. We actually got to one of the last functioning osterias. And she said in the world, but definitely in the city. And osterias, you actually bring your ingredients, and the people there cook it for you. You have their wine from their bar, but the ingredients are ones that you bring in from one of the markets that are right around the corner. And that just was such a cool way of, like, you could buy the fresh seafood and everything, and you could just take it to someone who knew how to cook it. Never heard of anything like that before. So it was just so fascinating to me that that was even a thing, and that osterias, in my mind, don't do that, aren't that. So the risotto is bubbling away now, and I have my butter, my 2 tablespoons of butter, and my cheese ready to go. Okay, we're going to give it a taste. It says a slight bite to it, but not raw. There's a little bit of bite to it, but I think it might still need a minute more. It's absorbed, though. I think we're getting pretty darn close. The flavor's good. Definitely does have saffron, a little bit of saffron flavor to it, but it mostly tastes like the stock and the onion. Interesting, I didn't realize that the risotto I had on my last day may have had beef or veal or stock in it. But it said beef stock as the first one on here, so that's why we grabbed it at the store. Okay, so let's try it again, see if it's better. Hot. I think we're there. I think we are there. It says a little bit to a bite, so there's like a tiny bite. What exactly does it says? Bite. Now we're going to put in the butter and the cheese. Push the cheese off the back of the grater. We're going to put it in. And then we're going to taste it again. Make sure the butter completely melts. Let's do it pretty quickly in the cheese. Oh no, the cheese stuck completely to the spoon. It is not going in. Kind of a staticky moment. That's what happens when you grate it really, really fine. Kind of using that spoon that I had used earlier. So I'm going to keep stirring in the butter. It's still not absorbed. The cheese looks pretty melted though. It was so finely shredded that I expected it to be pretty quick. But the butter is taking a little longer. Keep stirring it. It looks really good. So, almost there. And then we're going to do a new spoon. Last taste. Oh, yeah. That's it. So, we're going to turn the burners off. That's what it said to do. And you said you can serve more cheese to sprinkle here. So, serve immediately, which we're going to do as much as we can. So, we're going to turn the oven off. The sauce didn't really kind of thicken, which surprised me. I expected it to thicken more. I don't know if that's because I did something wrong or otherwise. So, let's get the appropriate tools, i.e. oven mitts, to get the beef out. I want to be careful. I put it in a cake pan because I thought shallow would be good. You know, like a 9x13 pan. Thought that would work out. So then when we look back at the other recipe, it had said to serve it polenta or potatoes, but since I had something so similar, so it says slice the meat thickly, then serve on top of polenta or mashed potatoes with the sauce poured over. Ooh, that looks so good. I did have to pull more fat off the top. It was really fatty, so I don't know if I should have just drained off all the fat from the beginning or it just happened to be what it was. Let's get to cutting. So it says cut it, slice it thickly. Does it matter at this point because it's so cooked which direction the meat fibers are? Well, I'm going to go against like I would anyway with brisket. I've actually never done like a braised like Jewish brisket before, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah, I wish the sauce was thicker. I thought that with all that flour we put in that it would be. It's not. It's okay. I just had hoped it'd be a little bit thicker. I'm trying to slice this thick and it's wanting to actually fall apart. But it's more shredding than chunking up. So just trying to make sure we have enough for our plate. So what I'm going to do is I am going to finish slicing this. I'm going to plate up the risotto, put some beef on top, and some sauce. And maybe pour some of the rest of this Barolo wine so we have wine with our meal. And then we'll give you the final taste test. So we are here back at the table, and I have Chris with me.
Hello.
Can you tell me about your adventure eating Parmigiano Reggiano in Italy?
I'm not the world's biggest cheese fan. It's not really something I prefer to eat, but I felt like I wanted to honor the people in the region by eating their delicacy. I did not want to offend anybody, so I tried it, and it was pretty decent. It's not my favorite thing in the world to eat, but I was open to the experience.
You did taste part of my dish when I had this in Italy, right?
Yeah, I had a bite of it. It was quite good.
Okay, so Chris is gonna give it a taste.
I sure am. Looks good.
I wish the sauce was a little thicker, but it looks good.
Yeah, this is the first time you've made brisket for me. I've made it for you a few times.
Yes. Though it's definitely not quite as juicy as yours is, but then it was also braised, so it's going to look different anyway.
Different experience. All right.
Okay.
Bon appetit. Risotto's cooked perfectly.
Oh, I did get it right? Mm-hmm. Yay!
Good flavor from the meat, the sauce. A little thin, but it is good. I can see the vision there. Yeah, this is good. I'm liking this.
Okay, let me have some then. I try not to chew directly on mic. Oh, that's really good. I wish the sauce was thicker. I feel like it needs to be coating the meat, because it definitely was in the recipe. That was beef cheek. Maybe there was obviously something different, but it's really tasty.
Yeah.
So should I make either of these recipes again?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, there we go. Let's go back in the studio. So despite a few little hiccups, mostly on my part, these were amazing recipes. If I have to borrow or buy this cookbook, I would buy it because of this trip that I had to Italy. So this is a very personal thing. So it's really up to you. I'm definitely going to try some of the Bologna recipes. I have to tell you, Bologna's food was life-changing. I'm really jealous because people in college who were political science majors were able to go to Bologna to study abroad. Now, I didn't want to be a political science major, but I'm glad I was finally able to make it to Bologna, even though it was only a day. So I would definitely buy it. Thank you for joining us on Cooking Through the Collection. If you enjoy this episode, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. You can visit the website for more information at cookthecollectionpod.com. Follow me on Instagram, cookthecollectionpod. Until next time, happy cooking.